Welcome back to Love Wrestling. Spencer Love with another great person and great professional wrestler, and someone that I'm especially excited to chat with because not only have they been training and working hard throughout the last year, but they've only really been training and working hard inside the ring for the last year. It's always great for me to speak to people who are really on the up and up, and especially when they're so new to the up and up, for lack of a better way to put it. Kaia McKenna, the conduit of karma, the good witch, and again, a great human being in pro wrestling. It's good to see you, friend. How are you doing? How are you feeling after the gym experience that you rushed in from?
Actually, I'm feeling pretty good. I am currently rehabbing a shoulder injury, so they can't torture me too much. I definitely have a get out of jail free pass on overhead squats and thrusters for the foreseeable future, so I am quite happy. But it was good. It was good. I'm trying to keep busy and keep moving and do what little stuff I can and be very adamant with my physical therapy so I can get back to the ring sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. And I think that everybody can assume that like any professional wrestler that's trying to do what you're doing and make it a career and push forward that way, they would be physically working hard. They'd be trying to rehab on that end of things. But like on the mental end, I know that it's not some career defining injury, or knock on wood. But what's it been like on that end of things to, again, be back working out, trying to get back into the ring, especially so early in your in-ring career?
Well, it's interesting because you have good days and you have bad days, and then you have good experiences and bad experiences. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes you'll go and you'll be able to do something you didn't think that you were capable of doing again yet, and it's exciting. And then some days you will go to do something like, let me just see if I can do this very gently and with a low weight, but let me just see, and it doesn't happen, and it's very frustrating.
Very much a no.
Especially if you're somebody who is not like a gym rat. I don't want to say I'm a gym rat because honestly, if I wasn't wrestling, I probably would not be this active in doing fitness at all. But if you're somebody who is regularly doing fitness, then it can be a little bit discouraging when you're used to doing a certain thing or a certain standard and you cannot meet it. So it's just trying to like work on what I can, not get mad about what I can't quite do yet, and get myself there without being stubborn when causing a re-injury.
Absolutely. And it has opened some doors. You know, you look at the silver lining for everything. You've been working inside the ring for Camp Leapfrog. Now you're getting your first opportunity at commentary, obviously not just with them, but overall. How cool is that for you? Even when, you know, you've talked about dreaming about being a pro wrestler. What's it feel like for you to step into that role? I know you've been reaching out for advice and really approaching it enthusiastically, but what were your thoughts when you first were told or when you first asked to step into the commentary booth, whichever way it may be?
Honestly, I was a little nervous at first because I think a lot of people assume things are easy and they're not. Commentary is not easy. Like people go, oh, you just talk while people wrestle. It's like, no, so much more than that. It's such an important role to a wrestling show, especially because if you're not there in person and you're watching on the stream, the commentators are helping to tell the story of what's going on in the ring. They're giving you background on the characters while also calling a play-by-play of the moves for people who are watching so they can follow along. If there's something specific that needs to be expressed to the viewers, it's really on commentary to kind of help clue the fans in as to what's happening. Especially like if you're somebody like me that's very like has a very fun gimmick. I am a good witch. Like, you know, it's like it reads as a witch, but like to have someone on commentary supporting what I'm doing in the ring and what my rituals are, like that helps me immensely. So it's such an important role to do commentary. And I've been really, really grateful that I've been able to talk to people like Alyssa Marino, who does commentary for WWR Plus, and MLJ, who does commentary for GCW. So some people that are working at some pretty important indies right now. And just to have like their feedback on stuff has been incredible too. And they're both incredible in their own right. Like I feel so honored every time one of them are calling one of my matches because like I'm like, great, I'm in good hands.
Well, and I was going to say you've certainly reached out to some great people on it, but I know you tweeted out a couple of days ago looking for advice on a first-time commentary basis. Did you maybe get any good responses, or you know how the internet can be sometimes? Were there maybe some that you looked at and said, absolutely effing not?
I think like the overarching, like a lot of people are saying a lot of the same things, which is good because that means there's a general consensus on what is appropriate for commentary and what isn't appropriate for commentary. And a lot of the stuff that isn't appropriate is obvious in my opinion. But there were some also really, really cool things that people kind of mentioned that was, just like, you're there to enhance the story. It's not about you and your knowledge and making jokes or getting yourself over. It's truly about what the performers are doing in the ring and how you can add to that story. And also just not feeling like you need to be speaking nonstop, that you want to create space for your commentary partners to contribute, or you want to create space for the people in the ring to have that moment, because above everything else, that is the most important thing, is that the people in the ring get to have that moment that they're out there to give the crowd.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to get you on the audio end, for lack of a better way to put it, but I'm incredibly excited to see you back inside the ring, especially, like I've said, you've been doing a great job over the last year. Is it surreal for you that, like, it has actually been pretty well a full year? You've been in the ring doing your thing. I tried to find another rhyme, but I didn't find it. So I'm just going to leave that as the question.
It's been really nice to see it all come to fruition and to kind of get, like, be able to reach up and grab some of that, like, low hanging or medium hanging fruit at this point. When I started wrestling, there was no wrestling. I graduated wrestling school in March of 2020 and everything was locked down. So I had a lot of time to invest in thinking about how I want to wrestle, how I want to present myself, what I want my gear to look like, how I want to utilize social media to make people familiar with my characters. So when I do get to make a debut and start actively wrestling, it's not out of nowhere. I was very, very strategic. I thought of it almost as like chess, and like, how can I set myself up to take the king as quickly as possible when the opportunity strikes, So it's just been a lot of, like, planning and just, like, going to the right places, meeting the right people, like just being friendly, like, not having bad takes on social media, like taking my gimmicks seriously, like, just in how you present yourself as a performer. It's so important. Getting in the ring and physically wrestling is obviously one thing. There are people in wrestling who are incredible athletes. They're very agile, they're very quick, they're very talented, but being able to tell a story when you wrestle and create a moment that resonates with the audience is also very important. And that's something I put a lot of time and energy into, is creating this character and having these little quirks and little things that people can look forward to, or they can create narratives about, and it just enhances the experience. It makes wrestling even more cool.
Absolutely. And, like, admittedly, I'm not as familiar with Marek Brave's work as I am with Seth Rollins, admittedly, but that feels like something that he would maybe be putting forward as, create those moments or create those opportunities, like you say, for yourself. So what was that maybe like for you to approach Black and Brave and start to train there? Or maybe what's the reason that you wanted to train with them specifically?
I wanted to train with them specifically because it's arguably the best wrestling school in the country. You have the head trainers are very accomplished, very decorated individuals in the world of wrestling who have been doing it for a long time at this point, which is crazy to think about, because sometimes I feel like, oh my God, like 2003 was just yesterday, but here we are in 2021.
I was going to say, we're aging the both of us on that end.
Just a little bit. I'm kind of like giving it away, but it was such an honor to be able to go to a wrestling school like that with people who are so decorated and accomplished in the field and could provide such key and critical guidance for you in your career, that were willing to teach you and kind of take you under their wing as long as you were working hard for it. They obviously have a very high expectation and a high standard of all of their students, but I wouldn't have it any other way, because to me, that just means that your coaches want to see you be successful and do well and be prepared and ready to kick ass when the opportunities come. It was just such a great experience. I mean, who would not love to learn wrestling from somebody who's a multi-time world champion? Like, that's incredible in its own right.
Absolutely. And it's especially cool, like you say, it's one of the most well-respected pro wrestling schools out there. And in the grand scheme of things, it's a fairly new school, but you look at individuals like yourself.
Well, they've been around since 2014.
Yeah, which is, like, nuts to think about. But you look at some of the schools out there and just it's like anything in pro wrestling. The history, as soon as you dive into it, gets absolutely nuts. But
I think that they instill a strong work rate in us, and they want us to succeed, and they want us ourselves to want to succeed, if that makes sense. I definitely think that's what you make out of the experience, right? Because you can go to, like, just not a regular wrestling school, but maybe a school that doesn't have as big of a name. But if you work really, really hard and you put yourself out there and you attend a lot of seminars and you seek out knowledge, like you can be very successful. And on the other side of the coin, you can go to a phenomenal wrestling school and not be successful because you're not a driven, motivated individual and you're lazy and you're not putting effort in. So it goes both ways. But when you get like great coaches and driven individuals and it's in the same environment, it's just a massive recipe for success.
Absolutely. One of the best pieces of advice that I ever got, like before I was working in marketing, I was working in kitchens, and somebody says you can teach anybody to cook any dish, but you can't teach them to give a shit. And like you said, it's kind of cool when you sort of hit that crossroads of, yes, incredibly talented individuals, but if they don't care, like you said, what's the point, right? So I do want to pivot with it a little bit though, because I'm absolutely fascinated not only by the Good Witch gimmick, but like you brought up in an interview with Ella J that it's not entirely a gimmick. If I remember correctly, you said that it was your aunt that's actually a witch, correct?
Yes. There are witches in my family. They go back many, many generations to Ireland. So we're Fey witches. Our magic is older than any sort of Wiccan or pagan practices that are occurring nowadays. And it's very, very special. We draw a lot of power from the goddesses. We draw a lot of power from the moon and the stars and the sea. And it's just been a very, very nice practice to have in my life, just both spiritually and even just being able to be a part of it has been so great. And I'm so fortunate to have someone in my family, like my aunt, who is very well versed in being a witch to kind of guide me along the way. And I decided to do it in wrestling because they always say the best gimmicks are things that are a piece of you that's just amplified a little bit, And I was like, well, I don't want to play the witch. I'm going to be the witch. And I am the Good Witch. There ain't nobody on the indies witchier than me right now. So there's my dog barking. I told you it was going to happen. But
don't worry. Honestly, if it wasn't for my headphones, I'm certain JP would be running in here
I
doing
thought it
the
would
same.
I just thought it would be really, really nice to have this character that's very like ethereal and light and can tell stories to people and make people believe in magic for the 8 to 10 minutes she's in the ring.
I might be throwing a question at you that's, one that might make you roll your eyes a little bit, but like maybe what's like a misconception around witches or something around that? Because, like movies are really the only experience I've had, and they certainly don't paint them in the most favorable light, for lack of a better way to put it sometimes. So a misconception
everybody has
that you can clear up.
Everybody has different, all different denominations of witches have different beliefs and practices. But I would say something that I feel is like one of the most inaccurate things is that you can actually cast a spell and control the outcome of it. You can't like literally make someone disappear. You can't literally make someone fall in love with you. You can't literally control any of these circumstances. You can do your magic and do the best you can to influence an outcome utilizing the energy surrounding it, but you have no control over how that is going to manifest itself and take place. Sometimes you're a little pleasantly surprised, like, well, that wasn't exactly what I had in mind, but it was effective, so I'm okay with it. But yeah, you can't just be like, I want this person to have 3 pimples and do a spell and they boom get zits.
Like there's a triangle on the face.
Work like that. Yeah, it's the universe definitely is still very much in control of itself, and we are all just small little tiny pieces in the bigger puzzle. So that would be like my number one like misconception that I think people see just from like seeing witches in mainstream media and pop culture.
Yeah, what real life witches are is certainly nothing like Harry Potter, I guess, is the one-liner to take from it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like maybe there are witches out there that practice a very similar magic to Harry Potter. I do not know. That is not my particular area of expertise. I do like Harry Potter. Harry Potter's great, but no, I'm just going to stick to being a good little happy witch over here.
Well, trust me, if you don't know, I can guarantee that I am 100% batting out of my weight class as far as that goes. Now, I tried to find a way to tie in influencing the universe, but I simply couldn't. So I simply want to ask to close it out, like, what are some of the goals you've got in the future? Commentary, whether it was one of them or not, or something that you can cross off the list, getting inside the ring, working for a year, you're doing some cool stuff. But what's next for you, or what's hopefully next for Kaia McKenna?
I would really, really like to, I always keep a list of goals. I think overarching the goal is like, I want to be like a women's world champion one day. Like that's like my overarching goal. I didn't want to pigeonhole myself and limit it to being at one particular place, but I do want to be a women's world champion at a company that matters. I try to keep like smaller goals too, because I think along the way, like, well, you always have like your eyes on the prize and this overarching goal, whatever it may be for you. Like, oh, I want, one of my lofty goals is I would love to have a match at WrestleMania and get to do a really awesome witchy entrance. Like the match isn't even the goal here. It's just getting to do that like huge productive, like theatrical entrance. Because I feel like that would be so great with my gimmick. And I just would love to do that. So that's like a goal I have. That's a little pie in the sky, but I have it. And then there are like, I call them like low hanging fruit goals, which is like, you know, work at these indies. Like I wanted to do GCW this year. I wanted to do Beyond Wrestling this year. And I was able to check both those boxes. I would love to like work for AAW or Black Label Pro or SUP, you know, just other big prominent independent wrestling promotions that are on the scene right now. I would love to, I would really love to have a match on AAW Dark within the next year. I think that that's a good goal to have for anybody. I would love to have a match on Impact. Like I would love to work with Women of Honor. I mean, all of these are stepping stones to the overarching major goal, right? So it's just being able to like check those boxes and make sure you're still elevating yourself as a performer, even if some days it just feels like you're inching along like a little inchworm, right? But as long as you have that upward momentum, like speed isn't the factor here. It's that you're continuing to elevate yourself and move up.
I love it. I think that's something that like, obviously you can take great advice for professional wrestling, but overall, right? Like if you're making progress towards something, no matter how quickly you're getting there, it's the progress towards something that matters at the end of the day.
Well, and like, it's different for everyone. Not everybody moves at the same speed. And I guarantee you, if you were to take like the top 10 people in wrestling across the board right now and sit them all down in a room and ask them how they got to where they are today, none of those stories are going to match. Nobody has the same background. Nobody's going to have the same training. Nobody's going to have worked at the same places. Like there's no magical formula to success in this business. The only common denominator you're going to find is that all of these people were very driven, motivated individuals who were continuing to elevate themselves throughout their career in any capacity they could.
Excellently put, friend. And I think it's a great place to tie it off on this one, because
absolutely,
when you get a good theme for a show, this one being just simply work your ass off, it's always a great place to tie it. So when people eventually do want to see you on AEW Dark, or when they want to see you lift that women's world championship above your head, how can they find you on social media to do so, friend?
I have Twitter and Instagram. The handle is at Kaia MCK. So it's KAIA MCK. And I tweet and post quite frequently. I try to keep everybody afloat with my matches and where I'm going to be and all of that good stuff too. Sometimes on Twitter, I'll host a space called The Witching Hour, which is just like a fan Q&A, a little bit of astrology, a little bit of what's going on with the moon, and a little bit of a free-for-all. So if you ever see it happening, please slide in. It's a good time. That's all I got going on right now. Lots of shoulder rehab.
Well, friends, it's not getting in on the ground floor, but you certainly want to be paying attention to Kaia McKenna. You certainly want to be supporting great professional wrestlers, but certainly we want to be supporting great people. And you're doing both if you give her a follow on those indicated platforms. And if you want to keep up to date, you know we've got a soft spot for the friends of the show on Love Wrestling. So anything coming up on her end of things, we will be reposting, retweeting, Facebooking, MySpacing, whatever social media is out there. We'll be sending stuff out, of course, in the near future. So give us a follow at Love Wrestling CA, wherever videos are viewed or podcasts are played, for the latest and greatest people in professional wrestling. Kaia, it was an absolute blast to have you on the show. I really, really can't wait to do so again. I think it was in Windsor that I saw your one match in Canada was, but hopefully we'll get you out here to the West Coast sooner rather than later. But until then, friend, I hope to see you on the interwebs after shoulder rehab sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me this evening. It was a wonderful chat and I really enjoyed it.
Anytime. And I'm glad that the pleasure wasn't all mine, but there was certainly heaps of it on my end of things. Friends, if you want to have more good times, continue to stay tuned for more interviews here, or stay tuned to our social media for more upcoming interviews. For the good witch, for the conduit of karma, Kaia McKenna, I've been Spencer Love. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.